I wanted to go ahead and circle back on Sapphire Steel because I really do think that in Rise of the Floodborn and now with Into the Inklands being released, this deck is very well poised in the meta to be a very strong contender. It really doesn't have anything that it's super weak to, and it does have a lot of good matchups, which counters a lot of the stuff in the meta. It should counter Amber Steel Songs despite Moyen losing with this deck in the finals of the online 178 player Pixelborn tournament, because he really wasn't playing Let It Go's or Hades, and he lost to Steel Cinderellas as I found out later, so what I predicted was correct there. And it has a good matchup against Emerald Steel. It does still struggle a little bit with Ruby Amethyst, but the matchup has gotten better for this deck Into the Inklands. And so let me know in the comment section below if you do want me to explore this deck a little bit more. What you're seeing in this match, though, is going to be a best of 3 against Amber Amethyst Aggro. My opponent starts off going first, I believe there, yeah, and they drop a KIDA and curve out onto a Pinocchio on turn 2. So this looks really good for them. We are using something very similar to Moyen's list. We have modified it a little bit, but unfortunately we don't have the SME as our turn 2 drop or another 1 drop that we're going to be able to play aside from that Develop Your Brain. So the opponent is going to end up shifting the KIDA here and reducing everything on the field to 0 so they can continue to aggro. Now I make a huge mistake here because I'm just under the mindset that, okay, well, I can't deal with their board. They're going to get a free quest on the Pinocchio. The hook has Challenger 2. So I could have challenged the Pinocchio and taken it out, but I didn't do that. And so this misplay is very, very costly. The opponent overextends here, and I am not really in a great position unless I hard draw a Grab Your Swords, basically, and I'm forced to hard cast it. Because without Fishbone Quill, I can't, well, there it is right there, but with the Mickey ramp and not the Fishbone Quill, I can only play a 5 drop on turn 4 and not play a 6 drop on turn 4 with the double ink on Fishbone on turn 3 and 4. So unfortunately I am very far behind here, and I just like throw the hook into the KIDA. Not that it really does anything. The opponent has, I think, like 7 lore on board here, and anything is basically going to close the game out for them. So yeah, I really misplayed there because that extra 3 lore essentially clutched the game up for the opponent. So just a neat little interaction for you to make sure you pay attention to with KIDA if you ever run into it and these aggro decks. The more you playtest, the more you know, and you watch your footage back and you see the mistakes that you were making, etc. The Tinkerbell comes down, clears out the board. The Mickey Mouse is going to be able to take out the KIDA, but at this point, the game is probably too far gone for me to do anything. I would need to draw into like multiple copies of Grab Your Swords, and while the Hades could take out a threat, and the opponent is only on 3 ink, I would need multiple interactions constantly in order to continue to out the opponent's board. So the blue, normally would be like, well, they quest and then it gets banished, so they win the game, but the Hades actually deals with it. Same like with Mufasa, it puts it into the inkwell, so it prevents the opponent from getting the lore because it's not banished. However, the opponent is going to be able to drop a Chernobog here since I gave them an extra ink, because clearly they have a bunch of uninkables in hand, and there's nothing I can really draw here that can win me the game. I would basically need another Hades. So I get a lot of nice like potential draws, and because I'm not playing Let It Go's, like that was another potential out if I was playing it that I could have to let it go the Chernobog away. But yeah, it's not going to be enough, so we end up conceding there, and my opponent is going in for a rematch here where I'm going to go first now. So this is what I talk about in previous videos when you go through best of 3s, and I know Pixelborn just underwent an update where you now have the option for like a hyper competitive mode, which is only best of 3s. That is a very different dynamic than just going in blind, because your decision making is very different in terms of how you play. So now that I know my opponent is on hyper aggro and I know what to maybe play and what to avoid, and at the time I don't think I caught the hook mistake until like I went back and watched the footage, like I didn't realize it in real time. It's going to alter my gameplay, and this is a true test of do I know this matchup, am I going to make all the right decisions here, right? So starting off with hook, playing a popsicle, and then just passing turn because I don't have the SME again, that's totally fine. The opponent can definitely drop the more aggro threats, I guess, and it's like not going to be a huge issue. They're going to befuddle the hook, so that's pretty good, and drop another 1 drop 2 quester. I'm going to continue to ink these Cogsworth because in this matchup they're not particularly good. And now that I have the Fishbone Quill, I am going to be able to nuke the field with the Tinkerbell next turn. So with 3 ink, I imagine the opponent might just continue to play small characters. They ended up inking a Mim Fox, so odds are they likely have another one in hand. But let's see what they opt to develop here. Okay, they put a blue in and they don't put it into bodyguard mode. They say whoops, but this actually works out in their favor, funnily enough. If they put it into bodyguard mode, that would have been better for me because my hook would have just taken it out and cleared the board. But because I do have a whole new world, I am going to ink this Beast Tragic Hero because playing the Tinkerbell here is more important. So we're going to also ink the Zeus and play the Tinkerbell. Now the opponent likely knows I have a whole new world, and so they're going to probably opt to dump their hand, but with me establishing this Tinkerbell on field, it puts me in a very commanding position because no matter what the opponent drops, the Tinkerbell is essentially always going to go 2-for-1 against these aggro decks. Like, they have to deal with this Tinkerbell, otherwise they're just not going to get over it. So like, they're not going to be able to do anything because the Tinkerbell will constantly just go 2-for-1. So with the quest of the blue, they're also going to drop a Wendy Darling and a Neverland, and I can take out the blue with the hook if I wanted to, and then use the Tinkerbell to take out the location. They continue to drop their whole hand, basically anticipating a whole new world, and because of that Maleficent now, I think I'm going to opt to take out the blue with the Tinkerbell so I can deal the extra 2 damage, and then just quest with the hook, and then Zeus the location. Oh no, Zeus the Wendy, yeah, because that's 2 lore and the location is only 1, and I can out the location next turn. So they're at 10 lore, they're in top deck mode. I'm absolutely not going to cast this whole new world. They just pass on nothing. I'm going to develop the McDuck Manor there, and just take out the location and then quest with hook. I'm checking their discard for how many characters they have in case they Chernobog me again. But at this point, the Chernobog isn't going to win the game for them, so it's totally okay. They're going to drop a goat on the 4 ink and pass. The McDuck Manor gets me 2 lore. I have a Grab Your Swords, and I think I'm just going to quest with Tinkerbell here, and then probably just pass turn. See what the... Okay, I'm going to quest with the hook as well. Yeah, no point in not questing with the hook, because if they want to crash goat, that's fine. It prevents them from questing, and the hook is not really doing too much else. So they are going to end up questing with the goat, and unfortunately they had a Mim Fox, and I'm like, oh man, like, that's kind of unfortunate. So they're going to gain the lore back, and then they're going to be able to take out my hook for free, basically. Or they can throw damage into the McDuck Manor, because I guess they realize that that's probably what's going to win the game for me, just the passive lore generation. They're inking a Simba, which is, I mean, is there a real point in doing that? Like, you're probably better keeping those cards in your hand. Like, the McDuck Manor gets us up to 11 lore here, so it is catching us up, and I don't know what I'm thinking about here, because there's no reason not to. I think I'm thinking about, is it worth casting Whole New World, and I don't think I should here. I should probably just play the Mickey. I'm going to trade in my hook with the Mim Fox to prevent the lore gain from the opponent, and then just quest with the Tinkerbell, and then play the Mickey Mouse, of course. Like, at this point, there's almost nothing the opponent can do, because I'll go to 15, 18 next turn. The opponent will go to 14 with the goat, and with only 5 ink, they can't close out the game in the next 2 turns, which means I win. So yeah, they drop goat, go to 14. If they have a 1-drop quester, they might be able to do something, but then we'd probably just hold New World into an answer anyways, like a removal spell. And we can hard cast the whole New World so we can continue to quest. So I just go to 18 and drop the Smee, and that's pretty much going to wrap up the game, because the opponent cannot get 6 lore in a single turn here. So we're going to go on to game 3, where I'm going to be on the draw again, but like I mentioned, knowing what the opponent is on is going to alter my lines of play a little bit. So let's see how we play on the draw again. So Amber, Amethyst, Aggro. You may have thought this deck was dead, but it definitely isn't. So our opening hand here looks pretty decent. We're going to actually put back the Grab Your Swords, though. We're keeping the Mickey Mouse, which is questionable, but I'm thinking here it's probably just ink to Fishbone Quill. We do have the Smee and the Captain Hook, turn 1 and 2 drop, which is really strong in order to slow aggro down, because Mr. Smee, as a 2-cost character, that's a 3/3 that will not take damage thanks to the hook, is pretty significant here. So the opponent's going to start off pretty strong, ink and a Maleficent 1-drop that quest for 2. We're going to ink one of our 2 Fishbones and drop the hook. If the opponent opts to protect the Maleficent with Bodyguard Simba, we'll still take it out with the hook to keep the opponent kind of slowed down. and that's exactly what they do. So unfortunate that we're not going to be able to prevent our Smee from taking damage, but that's totally fine. We'd rather just slow the opponent down as much as possible at this point, because aggro does go negative on card advantage in order to get their questing points in, and once we stabilize our board, we can definitely start paying off their stuff with our damage actions. So we end up inking one of our popsicles there, because again, just understanding what's important in this matchup, we don't necessarily need the popsicles for the card draw. We draw into a grab your swords here, and I'm just like, man, I wish I was playing that Robin Hood. So we're going to go ahead and ink another popsicle, because we essentially have to. And then we probably Fishbone Quill, and ooh, this is interesting. Okay, I'm going to play a Mickey, because I guess I'm going to hard cast the Grab Your Swords next turn. I don't know. I'm questioning my own plays here. I guess I'm just trying to slow the opponent down as much as possible for the lore gain. They're going to quest with the Pinocchio, go to 7, so they don't end up getting an additional set of lore off of the Maleficent, so they wouldn't go to 9. We draw a Gaston here, which is interesting, and I definitely should not ink this Fishbone Quill, but I probably do. Oh no, I have to, never mind, because of the yeah, Grab Your Swords. Okay, so we take out the Baloo, which, you know, gets them to 2 lore, and we don't quest with the Smee because it would be banished if we do. The opponent hard casts Friends, and that's a good sign that they likely don't have anything too threatening. And I'm just hoping to draw into an Inkable to put a Gaston on board. I definitely made some questionable decisions in this matchup here that I, you know, in hindsight, I probably would not make now that I'm going back. But I think my mindset is I just want to slow the opponent down as much as possible. Despite me playing maybe not in the most optimal manner, this accomplishes that. So they develop a Wendy. We're going to develop our brain with a Gaston, and of course we're going to draw that Tinkerbell. Hoping to draw. Oh no, we don't even need it because we got 6. So we can take out any X and 1 toughness characters that the opponent ends up dropping, and the Gaston will deal with the Wendy Darling. The opponent puts down a spell book, and I'm like, wow, okay. Thankfully on Steel we do play, I think, 2 copies of Rise of the Titans in this deck. We draw into the Captain Hook, and I'm thinking that I'm still gonna want to play this Tinkerbell because it does represent like if the opponent quests with anything else, like it does represent me being able to take it out and take out whatever other ready threats they have. We're gonna just use the Smee to crash and then quest with the Gaston and the Mickey and then pass turn. The opponent, you know, is putting me on a clock with the spellbook for sure, which can be a bit of a problem. But we do have Hades online now as well, which is important for whatever character they drop that is readied up. They end up dropping the KIDA, reducing the field, and questing with the Wendy. Now, KIDA does reduce the field by, I think, 3. So anything with like 4 or more toughness will still be able to deal with, still have attack to deal with the opponent's board. So we end up taking, using both of our characters to take out the Wendy Darling, which again is kind of questionable, but again, just trying to slow the opponent down as much as possible. I am on a 7-turn clock now with the spellbook, but I've absolutely cleared their board and they're on no cards. Ah, man, they drop a goat, so they go to 14. Spellbook's going to put them to 15. And then when I Hades away that goat, it's going to put them to 16, and then Spellbook will put them to 17 next turn. However, the Gaston and the Tinkerbell and now the Hades on board is threatening game because next turn we'll have 8 questing power. So if the opponent doesn't out anything on my board, we've won the race. And so that's how, you know, Sapphire Steel Song can kind of just deal with aggro. We end up outracing them there and controlling their board by taking out their threats. If you like this video, make sure you drop a like on it and leave a comment. The deck list that I'm using is linked in the description and likely pictured on the screen here. Again, I probably will do a deck list review and some more matches with this setup later on. Again, it is a little different from Moyen's list, as you can see, but I do really like this deck. I think it is very, very strong for the meta. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.